Today we are exploring an abandoned location situated very close not only to the economical heart of South Africa, but closer still to the transportation heart of the country. You see, before the dawn of the motor vehicle or even the aircraft was the railway, a feat of engineering and economic marvel on which most of modern civilization was built, and South Africa is no different. In many respects, modern South Africa and its economy is intertwined with the railway. The industrial development of the country is a direct consequence of a once bustling railway infrastructure that spanned the entire country and even past its borders. What we came to explore today is a very small part of South Africa's railway history that dates back to 1858. This location has been mostly abandoned but remains somewhat protected within the compound of the School of Rail Esselenpark campus, situated in Kemptonpark, east of Johannesburg. So join Rogue and Sinister as we step back into history to discover what is left behind at a training facility that once qualified people to follow the various career paths associated with a once world-class railway system.
What's up guys, Rogue and Sinister here, after quite a while off the channel.
It's been a while. We've been active, we haven't just not been posting. So.
Yeah, we've been very busy, but we'll discuss that in one of our podcasts. But welcome back on the channel. Apologies for our delay in shooting footage, but today we are at a very special location, which we will definitely discuss further on in the episode. But first of all, we want to give a huge shout out
to Yanni the Machine from the Upside Down Paranormal.
Yanni, thank you so much. You are indeed the machine, and how fitting. We are in a training center where train drivers got their training to operate these massive machines. So it's a cool segue into thanking Yanni, the machine. So we are here on borrowed time. The security only allowed us for 1 hour. We're going to try and stretch it a little bit. Maybe they're going to kick us out, we'll see. But for now, we're going to make the best with what we have. Let's step in, see what is left behind, and hopefully we'll get the best shot with the minimum time we have available. So let's step in.
Thanks guys, keep well.
Thanks guys, cheers.
As we stepped into this facility, we did not know much about the history behind it. The length of the building revealed a massive light blue steel structure, which carries some very interesting history on its own. But at this stage, we did not have a clue of the age or even the historic value that it was hiding behind it. We did not notice it at first, but if you peek through the missing ceiling boards, you can catch a glimpse of the steel roof trusses that would later feature very prominently in this building. First appearances inside looked like remnants of admin offices, mixed with some technical equipment scattered around, but at the very least it did pique our interest. Here are some cabinets actually still filled with electronic components that were utilized in the maintenance of the equipment once housed by this facility. Again, If you take a quick glance through the ceiling boards, you can see the massive steel beams and beautiful architecture of this building.
We managed to get access from the very kind security, and they actually did clear it with their supervisor.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of a time frame, and we're gonna overstay our welcome. Very interesting so far.
You should see that side. That's awesome.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
already?
Yeah, I quickly went through there, but there's a lot of things to see.
Okay.
Like, not this room, the next room, there's a little scale model of a training station.
Okay.
So, which obviously they try to practice on or maybe just demonstrate
Okay.
something on. It looked cool.
It's a very important or interesting part of history, because this country was kind of built on the railway system, which nowadays has become very antiquated, unfortunately.
But if you see what they've done here, it's like, it's awesome.
Anyway, let's have a bit more time before they come chase us out.
Like,
The South African railways operated not only in South Africa, but also in Southwest Africa. The history of the SA railways dates back to well over 150 years, with major construction of the railway line starting in 1858 and has expanded to Southwest Africa by 1908. The SA Railways was the largest employer in South Africa for many decades, especially during the first half of the 20th century. In 1984, there was still over 240,000 employees of all races and cultures working for the SA Railways. With such a booming and rapidly expanding railway industry, it is of critical importance that highly qualified individuals are trained and prepared for every role and responsibility. This is exactly what the School of Rail Esselenpark campus is for, and even with a failing railway infrastructure, it still operates to this day.
This is our railway. The trails blazed by our pioneers have become familiar tracks of commerce and industry, and from this enterprise has grown the largest organization of its kind. Yes, we've come a long way. From the southern tip of our continent to our vast northern borders, from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic, steel rails have bound the people together, become the pulsating arteries of a free nation, and the framework on which our civilization and prosperity is firmly based. The wealth of our diamonds and gold was the magnet that drew the people and the railways to the hinterland. Coal, for instance, one of our greatest mineral assets, is refined into petrol and chemicals, transported over vast distances to bring cheap electrical power to our homes and industries. In transporting coal and iron ore for the making of our own steel, the railways are playing a vitally important role. Steel, not only for further railway development and maintenance, but a commodity that has made our rapid industrial expansion possible. With new industries and up new rail links for hauling the products of our factories, fashioned into the shape of things our people need. The railways pump our fuel oil from the refineries at the coast to the distant inland centres, and also distribute by rail tanker throughout the land. As a modern country, we use a lot of oil, and with increasing demands for more food, agriculture has become a major consumer of petrol and diesel fuel. In feeding a nation, the food must be delivered at a price the people can afford. Maize and wheat, beef from the far-flung cattle ranching areas of the north and beyond, perishables from the coast and inland centres transported in fast refrigerated trains, and fruits and vegetables from the gardens of our nation. The export of fruit has become a major industry. Keeping the nation's wheels rolling takes a lot of organisation. And throughout the country, in offices and workshops, airports and harbours, 200,000 men and women of every racial group, of every walk of life, and a good cross-section of most trades and professions known to man, share a common pride in knowing how to serve a nation. Yes, behind the men who run the trains, there are many whose constant vigil and preparedness help to keep them running. Some use machines which can see right inside the steel rails, looking for flaws no human eye could ever see. Others must repair rail damage at short notice. Maintenance takes a lot of men, from the man on the spot to the men in the workshops, where the modern concept of maintenance is to locate the trouble and repair it before it happens. The restless activity of our railways never ceases. Research into new techniques for rail construction and maintenance are part of the constant aim for more efficiency. A railway needs highly trained men. At Esselenpark in the Transvaal, there is an institute which has no counterpart anywhere in the world. It is in effect a railwayman's university, where special training keeps the many grades of workers abreast of modern techniques in their particular fields. Your comfort and well-being is the concern of an army of men and women working together, each one doing his or her job proudly, whatever that job may be, sharing a common pride in knowing how to keep our wheels turning. A heritage from the past, a service to the present, a dream for the future still to come.
The SA Railways has a long and colourful history, but stepping into this building, we never realised the history behind this structure we were now exploring. Walking through what we assume was the admin portion of this facility, it was clear that not a lot was left behind. But upon stepping into the practical training section, the volume of this facility and the light blue steel structure and its architecture immediately grabbed our attention.
So guys, I don't know how clearly legible this is, but obviously these are the different train stations that were in this specific area, and then here you can see the different Morse codes. So obviously they taught the train drivers about Morse code as well. But this is the small facility. Obviously everything's functional and live to the extent to teach these guys how to operate the different systems. It makes sense. I mean, you don't want to put somebody on a very expensive train and they've got no knowledge. So signaling systems, carts, locos, you can see that pretty much everything's functional.
As you can see, the outside of this facility is extremely overgrown and mostly inaccessible, so unfortunately we could not film proper footage of what the outside train tracks and signals look like.
So yeah, these tracks run to these roller shutters, and then the drivers then have the opportunity to go to the facility outside where there are a lot more tracks for them to train on. This is just the in-house facility for the various stations and how their controls work. Quite a big facility. This could be compared to having a flight simulator if you're working for an airline and training on different aircraft models, but obviously these are just for trains, and you don't let just anybody take control of a train, so these guys train on the smaller stuff like a simulator. So back in the day, this was the flight simulator facility.
this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, I don't know about any other facility that can give you what you've seen here. The chance to see what the railway works like. And I think it would have been a great idea if the government could have had a facility like this open for public, that they can come and visit. Somebody show them how the old trains used to work.
Yeah.
What the new trains used to, well, what the new trains can do and what the old trains used to do. My first initial thing that came to mind when I walked in here is that everything's still awesome.
Yeah.
Everything's still working. Yeah, obviously there's parts missing, but the majority of it's still...
It's rescuable or salvageable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you have a clever person, he can still make this work. He can still adjust the track, see, because I fiddled around with some of the levers. They're still fully functional.
Yeah.
Just don't know how it works, but they're still fully functional.
I'm just panning around a bit, so you're still in the shop, but there's actually, like over here, some of these different signals on the side of the track. So these are all miniature signals, but it's obviously upscaled when you go to the bigger train stations and the bigger tracks. And all of them still seem to have their moving parts, so it's definitely salvageable. But what an awesome privilege to actually capture a piece of history. And obviously our train system in this country is no longer really accessible or functional to that extent, but it's still nice to see where we've come from. This is a piece of history that will disappear pretty much over the next 15 to 20 years unless there's a big revival regarding railways.
And we're not seeing it because the tracks aren't maintained. And yes, these factories, like especially where we're from, the factories still largely rely on rail for whatever the coal and the cement. And I mean, we've shot a couple of stations that have gone dormant throughout the years, with the exception of one or two places still functional for factories or for Eskom. That's
only industrial use. It's not really all altogether. There's very, very few stations that pick up passengers. Maybe in the main centres. Like
other than the Gautrain.
Exactly.
I mean, the Gautrain's our biggest
but it's
train.
It's also not normal railway. That is totally modern stuff.
And it's also only in certain segments of Gauteng. I mean, you don't have that in the Free State or the Eastern Cape or wherever.
Without realizing it, the steel structure that we were done exploring actually held its own interesting piece of history, which we only discovered while researching it after filming this episode. In May 1897, the SA Railways, then known as the Dutch South African Railway Company, upgraded Johannesburg Park Station due to the ever-growing influx of passengers. So the light blue steel frame structure designed by Dutch railway architect Jacob Klinkhammer was commissioned. While built from materials of the Industrial Revolution, the style was typical Neo-Flemish Renaissance, strongly resembling the look and feel of Amsterdam Central Station. At the time of construction, it was far exceeding the opulence and grandeur of anything in nearby Pretoria, clearly making Johannesburg the centre of the SA Railway Company. In 1932, the structure was disassembled after becoming redundant in the 1920s and replaced by the new Park Station. It was reassembled in Kemptonpark at the School of Rail Esselenpark campus, where it was then used as the training facility we just explored. In 1995, a major portion of this structure was again dismantled to be reassembled in Newtown, roughly 500 meters west of the current Park Station, with plans to utilize it to house a railway museum. Unfortunately, at the date of filming this episode, the structure has still not been repurposed and is in dire need of maintenance. We found an old news report dating back to January 2011, which explains the sad state of this once grand structure.
Weekend live here on SABC2. Now, this week's favorite building is what architect in South Africa Gabriel defines as the story of a queen turned pauper.
The sketch artist behind Josie in Graphite, the city's first sketchbook, took us to the dilapidated but still outstanding Old Park Station in Newtown, Johannesburg.
We're standing at the corner of Ntemi Poliso and Car Street in Newtown, or the border of Newtown and Braamfontein. And we are celebrating the structure that you see behind us called Old Park Station, the original Park Station. Now, the historical legacy of this building is the topic we want to touch on first. Built in 1897. Its greatest legacy is that it was the first impression from many people who entered fortune seekers, prospectors who came seeking the gold, who came into the city at the turn of the 20th century. You can imagine young fortune seekers stepping off the train with their top hats and their suits and and this is the first structure they look at. That's the legacy of this building. Architecturally, built in the Victorian architectural style. Some of the details are the light blue metal stanchions, the buttresses that finished with a beautiful floral spandrel, the clear story lighting you see on both levels that make for beautiful, along with the birds who migrate here and nest here, make for beautiful play of shadows. The gable wall that was, like all Victorian structures of a day, fitted in with beautiful mosaic glass. So this structure in her day was a gem of the city, and she's capped off with the regal crown, the regal roof cap crown that would give her space as the queen of Joburg. The negative to all of this is that unfortunately she's drifting between the old world, where she was the queen, where she was regal, and the new world, where unfortunately she's a pauper. She begs for attention. She's standing here desolate and alone, falling, dwindling away slowly, and definitely something needs to happen with her.
The small section of this structure that is still located at the School of Rail Esselenpark campus might be abandoned and forgotten to a certain extent, but it is in the company of some equally historic buildings that date back to 10 December 1943. The buildings consists of the main admin building with its beautiful columns, timeless sandstone and grand triple door entrance, the Boulevard building with a similar entrance but adorned with a mural sculpture above the columns depicting the railway that helped to industrialize South Africa, the grand old harbour tavern where many a railwayman relaxed in its glory days, and lastly the opulent colonnade with its dual columns running the length of its covered walkways and beautifully manicured gardens. This campus carries a legacy spanning from around the Second World War and stood through a very tumultuous South African history even to this day, as a testament of what can be achieved if ordinary people just put their minds to it. As we always say, this is why we do this. Rogue and Sinister visit these places to document them before they completely disappear. Also to honor the memory of the people and the places that once was. We'll see you in our next episode.